Well,
levels sound good.
my laptop just got the blue screen of death, so...
No shit. Are you serious? Wow.
That's concerning. Well, fuck. That's all for today, folks.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Dildo tech of you.
I think my favorite one is banana tampon.
Tampon disposal.
Banana tampon disposal.
All right.
Banana tampon disposal with product pitch and demo.
Just sitting like I'm just sitting like a normal ass banana.
Yeah,
And
like
like-
he has to get the peel off. We didn't even have the good graces to send him just
By
the
the
peel.
time it gets to him, it's probably like all rotted and
Bunch
shit.
of fucking fruit flies coming out of it. Oh man. Oh, I gotta. Well, I guess let's introduce the podcast first.
No.
We need an actual intro. Let's say, hello and welcome to the very first ever episode of the Thicc Bois podcast. Is it the Thicc Bois podcast or just Thicc Bois podcast?
I guess we'll say the Thicc Bois podcast.
The Thicc Bois
Yeah.
podcast,
Yeah.
like colloquially,
Yeah.
because that's easier. That rolls off the tongue better.
Yeah. Whereas if somebody says like, "Hey, did you listen to Thicc Bois podcast?" Like
Yeah.
that doesn't sound as good as the Thicc Bois
The
podcast.
Thicc Bois
Yeah.
podcast. Okay. Hello and welcome to the very first ever episode of the Thicc Bois podcast. I guess you could call this our pilot episode.
Yeah, I guess so. Episode 1.
Episode 1.
What are we going to call it? The thickening?
The thickening.
Maybe
Down-
episode 2 be down with the thickness.
Down with the thickness. My name is Gary. This is my older brother, Wesley. We decided that, we have so much to say that the whole world needs to hear it.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen to our poop and wiener jokes.
There are plenty.
Well, we've been talking about it for over a year now. So
What's that?
just getting together and doing a podcast.
Just doing
It's been
the
over
action.
a year since we've actually been talking
Yeah.
about doing it.
Yeah, it's been a while. We just recently hunkered down and decided to do something with it. We spent that one night looking at different things for the podcast. We went on Fiverr to try and find art and music.
Oh, yeah,
and
there's some real gems in there.
man, I'm telling
Real
you.
gems.
Well, do you remember the name of the one guy that had like the Vegeta with the prison tattoos?
Oh no, I don't. But I also remember he had like the Naruto thing with like the like the Pornhub headband.
Yeah. Did it say Pornhub on it?
It did.
It did. Was that the one where he was standing? There was like a
Yeah,
a
like-
Naruto character standing in front of like a bunch of like pink candy.
Yeah, pink candy.
I think we ended up finding out that that was actually he was making phone backgrounds,
Yeah, phone backgrounds.
and he on his Fiverr page he had it he had it written up like it was his story.
Yeah.
He was like, all my life I've struggled to find good phone backgrounds. So I decided to make my own. And I gotta tell you, I'm almost sad that I lack the creativity
Oh yeah, there's
or mental deficiency, whatever it is, that this guy has, because some of the stuff that he had on there was just absolute gold. My favorite thing about it was probably it was a bunch of like anime characters. Well, I say a bunch. It was Naruto and Dragon Ball characters, and they all had prison tattoos.
that's a very odd choice for.
Yeah. It was very strange.
Yeah, and what was the background with the Vegeta one? It was like.
It was like just he Googled like Windows background.
Yeah, it
And
was
like
very
used
odd.
that image and just put Vegeta on the front of it. And you can tell it was a trace. It wasn't like a Vegeta that he drew.
No.
It was like he took it out like a screenshot and then he drew the prison. Or maybe he might have found like.
Hell, he might have like taken it from like a Reddit subreddit or
He
something
may
like that.
have. Either way.
Like cringy Dragon Ball drawings.
r/cringy Dragon Ball. Either way, what a genius.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, he's a Da Vinci of our time.
I know. I kind of wish that my laptop was working so that we could shout this guy out.
I know. Do you ever wonder, like, okay, so take, for example, Da Vinci or Michelangelo. Like when those guys were starting out and they're making like these massively, these huge undertakings, these big ass, works of art like the Statue of David or what have you. And like the people were like people would look at him like, did you see that fucking statue that guy made? It had its dick out. Like, what a loser! What a weirdo!
What a weirdo!
And then
why is that thing's dick so small?
Well, I think. Yeah, I'm not an expert on this or anything, but I read a long time ago, and I've actually heard it from a couple different places that. I'll say back then, I can't give you any kind of date or century or anything, but back then, big dicks were vulgar. They were considered vulgar and barbaric. Yeah. And so when they would do those works of arts, like those marble statues and paintings and things, they would always depict the people in them as having these like little baby dicks, because that was like, I guess, innocent, or a symbol of status. I think it was just little dick insecurity.
Yeah,
if being entirely honest.
Like, what if you're like royalty and you got like a big fucking hammer dick?
Yeah.
And, like, everybody's like,
well, sucks for you,
yeah,
pal.
Sucks for you.
You and your baby arm need to go down to the slums.
You can't be king here. Like,
you can't be king. Look at that big flopping hog.
Yeah, your wiener's way too big.
So wins the tale of King Big Dick. I mean, and it's not even like average penises.
No,
like the Statue of David doesn't have like a solid 5-incher, like a little 6-inch whammy stick. He's got like it looks like a baby carrot.
Yeah, it looks like the end of your pinky finger.
Yeah, and like that's not. I wouldn't even go so far as to call that a small dick. That's micro penis.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Through and through.
That's like a medical
yeah,
issue.
It's a medical issue. It is a problem.
Yeah, it's a real bad problem you got going on there.
Have you ever seen I cannot remember what it's called, but they have penis extension surgery that you can do. Yeah, and it's
now I have heard that like it's like half of your penis is like inside of your body.
Well, there's some truth to that, but a lot of that is like, it's attached to something, and it's like it's supposed to be that way. It can't not be that way.
Like, I just got all this extra dick inside of me.
What's it doing in there?
Yeah, get it out here.
Yeah, we need you out on the field. We need you back out the line. No, what they do is they take this thing that's like it's like a plastic sleeve, and they'll cut you right here at the fupa, where your fupa meets like the base of your dick. And they take this like plastic sleeve. Imagine like a long narrow Pringle. Like it's got like that kind of concave shape to it, and like flares up on both ends. So they make an incision right there, and they slide that thing down in there. And from what I understand, it pushes your dick out. But I feel like you're still, you're still under the mercy of however much dick skin you have.
No.
Like they can push on your dick all day long, but like
your dick's just constantly be like taut, like
yeah,
all the time.
Yeah, like all the time.
Like all the time. That'd seem like that'd be super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like, imagine like from a girl's perspective, like they take a guy home who had the dick and bickening surgery. And, he takes his pants off, and he's, like, already at attention, but he's, like, totally soft. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Like, it'd be like hard, like, halfway out, just like a limp dick.
Like when you take your sock halfway off, and it's just kind of hanging there. I don't know. All that stuff, usually, like, implants, like, when I see, like, surgery, especially if I, like, watch the surgery. No. I can't watch surgeries because... And I don't know how to explain it other than it makes my balls hurt. Do you know what I'm talking about? Like, does that make sense? Like you get the feeling like here,
like in your gooch.
Yeah, like right in your gooch. Yeah, I think it's like your body's trying to like kind of shrink into itself. Yeah. But like all those shows, like Mary, of course, she watches Grey's Anatomy and what have you, and I'll be on my phone or whatever, and I'll look up in the middle of the show, and they're like cutting some dude's nipple off and like putting a spigot in it or some shit. Ooh. And it just freaks me the hell out. My whole body just like, I hate it.
I guess now would be really a good time to like inform people that like you shouldn't take anything that we say seriously.
Oh no,
Yeah.
no, we're just two idiots from the South.
Yeah, exactly. And I would imagine, or I'd hope that Mom has stopped listening at this point.
Oh, I'm sure she has. her eyes have rolled all the way around. I guess also we should specify that this is a totally free-form podcast. We might go into length on certain subjects, but do expect some tangential conversations here and there.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be par for the course.
Yeah. I think most of what we're probably going to try to cover is maybe like video game news, maybe like new stuff that's come out. We might talk a little bit about the new console releases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was going to say there's a lot of video game news out right now.
Yeah.
Have you seen where? And I know this happens all the time with anything that releases, where people have bought up, all the PlayStation
the price
5s.
gouging and everything.
Yes, and they, I saw one on Facebook Marketplace not long ago. Somebody was selling it for $1,300.
Good God! And what the original price is like $4.99 or something like that.
There's two versions. There's one that's like $5.99 for like with a disc tray.
Yeah.
And then there's a $4.99 version without a disc tray.
It's just all digital.
It's just all digital. No. Which I kind of, if it were me, I would do the all digital one anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I guess some people still like to have like the hard copies or whatever.
Yeah.
I guess if you're a collector.
Yeah, I guess so. But I feel like, for me, the Xbox One was the, when I got my Xbox One, I got a couple of games to go with it. And I thought, I would just pop it in and we'd be ready to go. That's how it was with the Xbox 360.
Yeah.
But I was really mad when I found out that it had to install the game from the disc before I could play it.
Yeah, because wasn't it like they didn't want you like having someone else borrow it or something like that? Or
I don't know if it was that, because I have borrowed Xbox One games from my friends, and I put it in, and it just downloads the game. So I know that they were kind of going that route when they were first unveiling the Xbox One. That was a big, huge stink.
Yeah.
It was like, there was all those threads where people were talking about like if somebody was watching a movie and like somebody else walked into the room, the Kinect would like say, "I don't recognize this face. That person has to pay to watch this movie too," and it would pause the movie. And that may have just been a 4chan green text to somebody blowing a bunch of shit. But I mean, at this point, I wouldn't put it past
Who's to say?
Who's to say?
Yeah.
Well, I say at this point, they've actually become more consumer friendly now.
Yeah, from what I've read or whatever, they've really made a conscious effort to go more towards, especially towards like gaming,
yes,
as opposed to like a multimedia platform for
right.
the Xbox.
And Microsoft was trying to get like this synergy between all their products, which I think they thought that the Xbox One was kind of going to flagship that whole effort.
Yeah.
Because when they released it. When I say when they released it, when they unveiled it, they were talking about they hardly ever talked about games. They were talking about TV, movies, streaming, and it was like, okay, that's great. However, I didn't buy an Xbox 360 for all that shit. I didn't buy an Xbox for all that shit. I bought it for the game. I want to play games.
Exactly. The rest of that stuff is just like icing on the cake.
Exactly. But they were treating it like that was the meat and potatoes, and the game aspect was secondary.
No.
And they definitely come around with the Xbox Series X. They're definitely more focused on gaming. I watched a YouTube video not long ago where somebody was talking about almost the entire Xbox 360 library of games is backwards compatible.
Yeah, I did see that. A lot of like original Xbox games too.
Yeah. Which I guess I didn't really understand like what it takes to make that a reality, or to make it possible to make backwards compatibility a thing. But apparently it's like a huge undertaking, and it's a big. I would
imagine too, like with some like the engines and stuff like that run some of these older games, like it's out of date, and you probably have to make adjustments inside of like the framework or something like that. Yeah.
Well, you would probably know more about like the tech aspect behind it. I was thinking, you just program in an emulator, like an Xbox 360 emulator, but it's a bit more complex than that. And and I'm not saying that I don't think they could have done that with the Xbox One. They definitely could have, and they did in the later generations. But I believe in the first generations, it was like almost like it was like no, you weren't going to play anything.
And I skipped the whole last generation. I didn't buy any of those, and I probably won't buy any of the new generation, just simply because I feel like PC does everything that the Xbox does, especially considering that they're trying to push most of that stuff like into the Windows Store, or most of the stuff is like Steam compatible or something like that, you know. Or it's like, especially like with Infinity that's coming out hopefully sometime soon. Who knows? That's
supposedly next year sometime.
I mean, that's going to be a title that's also going to be available on Steam.
Yeah.
And it's like, so I don't have to go get an Xbox Series X to get access to that game.
Yeah.
Where it's like where I can just use my PC.
Right, yeah.
You know. Where, I mean, that's really one of the reasons why you choose either the PlayStation, or you choose Xbox, is for the specific titles.
Yeah, this has that and this has that.
Yeah, like if you're big into God of War, of course you're going to buy a PlayStation. Yeah.
If you're a Halo fanboy, you're going to go
exactly
Xbox.
And that's the thing
PC now with the Master Chief collections on PC now.
Exactly, and that's another thing too, is that Xbox doesn't have a whole lot of original titles, whereas like the PS5 I think has done or the PlayStation has done a lot better job of getting original titles and keeping them and being like you can only access them here.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that. You know, even in like the previous generations, like there was a time where we had a PlayStation 2 and an Xbox original, I think it was. Was that the same generation, PS2 and Xbox?
Yeah, I think it was. I think the PlayStation came a little bit earlier and the Xbox kind of right after that.
Yeah. Even then, we had a PlayStation 2 and an Xbox 360. You had an Xbox 360 first. So we had that and then the PS2 at the same time. And even then, the PS2's, you know, library of games there's all kinds of stuff to play. Whereas the Xbox, especially the 360, was very much so geared towards first-person shooter.
Well, they had such success with Halo and Halo 2.
Right. Halo was Combat Evolved was a paradigm shift.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it changed everything. I think it was, and again, I can't say for certain, but I think it was the first shooter to do the left joystick does your strafing, your turning.
Really?
Forwards and backwards, left, right.
Yeah.
And the right stick was, aiming and camera control. And every shooter since then
has followed the same model.
Has followed that same model. Not even talk. Shooters, adventure games.
Yeah, true.
I mean, you could call Fallout a shooter. Fallout is a shooter, but it's definitely more of an RPG. And even it follows that same layout, that same path that they set or whatever.
Yeah, because I mean, really, what before Halo, the biggest name shooter that there was GoldenEye, and that was for 64. So. I mean, awful.
Yeah, and thinking back on it now, it's like, how in the goddamn would you play a first-person shooter on that monster of a controller?
It's awful. That controller. I don't know if it's just because we got it when we were so young, so we just kind of like got used to using that controller. But I'll say that up until recently, the controllers for Nintendo have been awful.
Oh yeah.
Like the GameCube was okay, but still the button layout was really weird because it had that real big A button in the middle, and there was like an X and Y around it, and there was like a B button down below it. Yeah,
and it had two joysticks, but one of them was like the C stick.
Yeah.
And even then, you only had like your primary, secondary, and tertiary. Directions. It wasn't like a full 360 rotation.
Yeah, and that at that time too, because they had the D-pad, but at the time nobody was really utilizing the D-pad for anything.
Yeah, even still, you don't. You really don't use the D-pad that much.
You might use it like in sub-menus and stuff like that,
but as for like actual gameplay, especially in combat, things in combat like that, I don't feel like you see much use out of it. Well, I take that back. I'm playing Fallout 4 right now. I just finished Fallout New Vegas.
Oh.
And even then, the D-pad was really only used for like hotkeys.
No.
Hotkeying like certain weapons to like up, down, left, right, and then you can even use like the tertiary directions like down, left, down, right, things like that. Hotkey weapons and aid items like stim packs, psycho, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah. I almost kind of feel like it's almost a little bit archaic at this point, the D-pad.
Yeah, I mean, other than like the Genesis or like the old school, like Nintendo or Super Nintendo, something like that.
Right. Well, I mean, those games back then, your options were left, right, up, down.
Yeah. Well, it was side scrollers. That's all it was.
Yeah. You know, for me personally, when Mario 64 came out, I was still pretty fresh on video games as a whole. Matter of fact, did it come out in 92?
I want to say,
because I was born in 92.
I want to say 95 or 96. I could be wrong. Let me check.
I couldn't tell you when we got Mario 64, but it wasn't. I don't remember it being particularly difficult for me to grasp the controls, because prior to that we had played. I mean, how many hours did we put in Sonic the Hedgehog 2?
Yeah, I mean, not
Countless.
that much. Or like we had like a Jungle Book game or something like that.
I thought we played the crap out of that game. I remember the Jungle Book game. Yeah. It was hard as shit.
That was an awful game. And then do you remember there was like an aerial game, like a Little Mermaid game?
Oh my god,
that one was really hard.
Wow.
Yeah. So apparently the Nintendo 64 was released September 29th, 1996.
So it was Mario 64 launch title?
Yeah,
okay.
Mario launched with
that.
That
makes sense that it would be. So yeah, when it released, I would have been 4. I don't think I was playing video games at 4, but I just remember, I remember playing Mario 64 and not having trouble with the controls.
No, and it was pretty intuitive. I mean, especially for it to be such an awful controller that they utilized.
That, and it was like their first like 3D platformer.
No.
And I think a 3D platformer is hard. It's probably harder than other 3D titles.
Yeah.
Because so much of the game is, precise maneuvering. And prior to that, people had only had to worry about left, right, up, down. Now they got to worry about left, right, up, down, in, out. Yeah. Speed, things like that.
Well, especially too. I mean, if you look at like how Mario did it, like how much of a success it was, and then you look at like some of like the Sega titles with Sonic, like the Sonic Saturn stuff, where it was like Sonic 3D, how much of a flop that was.
Right.
I mean, honestly, Sonic has ever since they went to 3D, it's never been able to grab a foothold.
Yeah. Which is weird because. I can agree that they've struggled with it ever since they've gone into the 3D era, but on the other side of that coin, they have a massive fan base.
Yeah, and they keep churning out awful titles,
and they just keep. It's like why are you struggling so hard?
It's just like at this point they're just like, fuck it, they'll buy anything. That's just anything, just throw it out there.
Just put Sonic on there.
Just put Sonic on there.
There was one that released alongside a cartoon show. Before I talk about that, the whole reason I brought up Mario 64 is because I've heard a lot of people older than me, especially people in their 40s, 50s, saying, I used to love playing video games, and then 3D came along, and it was way too much of like a change.
No.
And there was people. I remember hearing about people who would go into like GameStop. Or back then, I don't think GameStop was a thing back then, but they would go into video games like FuncoLand.
Yeah, FuncoLand.
And they would see like the demo display for Mario 64, and people were getting sick. Yeah, they were getting it was really fucking with them.
Really?
To control this thing in like a 3D space, because prior to that, nobody had ever seen anything like that, especially at least not in the home. Yeah.
Well, I mean, imagine when we were younger, like Mario 64 came out, and like that was really around the time that like getting into video games and playing them and everything like that. Like I would have never even imagined like VR would have been a thing at some point.
Oh no.
That's going to be like the new thing, the new wave of the future.
I can't decide how I feel about it because I have an Oculus and I love it and it's great, but it seems gimmicky.
Does it seem gimmicky because it's new and they haven't really worked it out yet?
Maybe. There's the Valve Index, which is you have the sensors on each of your fingers, which gives you more dexterity. And I have like a first generation Oculus, so I've got like the little controllers with the big loopy things and like the cords everywhere. So it's still in its infancy, for sure. But I just can't see. I can't envision it becoming the entire new direction of video games.
No, I mean, there's always going to be a place for, like, just sit down in front of the TV, like, start the game and then grab the controller or whatever. Yeah. But I think, especially, too, with something like these large, like, warehouses and stuff like that are, you know, you put on the headset and you go through and they have, like, all these different, like, things that you can do, you know.
We went and did something like that at the Battery, over there off at the new Brave Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
It was what was it? We had a headset and we had like a haptic vest.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have anything on our hands. I think each of the rooms had scanners in them.
Yeah.
And they would have had to tell where we were, but it could tell when you were reaching out with your hand. We were all like Iron Man in training, right? It was a Marvel's thing.
Yeah.
And you like when you do your hand out like this, you would shoot like a blast.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you would like, you know, hold your arm across your chest, you'd have like a shield, and you were moving through like an area like that. But you know, for something like that, you'd have to have, you know, a big array of sensors all over your whole room. In each corner, if you were going to have nothing on your hands.
Yeah.
I mean, even with the Oculus, I've got 2 sensors, and that's how it works. It's how it tracks where you are, what you're doing, where you're looking. I can say, however, that probably the one game that I've played on the Oculus that's really pushed the limits of what it's capable of is Half-Life Alyx. So much of that, there's so many parts of that game that I had these moments where it's like, oh shit, that's how that works.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, that's realistic. You know, like the way you interact with this thing is so realistic. Whereas prior to that, I had played like Super Hot and, you know, Robo Recall, where, you know, the gimmickiness of it was like kind of worked into the lore of the game.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But they were kind of like explaining away like why it's so cartoony, or you know why it's not that realistic, which is fine. I mean that works. If you're not setting it up to be realistic, then we know whatever.
Then we can take that off the table.
You can take that off the table, yeah. But I'm interested to see, you know, where it goes from here. You know, even if VR does, you know, flop, there are still in the video game, you know, the video game side of things. Outside of that, there's still real world applications for VR.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Especially if you could get, you know,
especially like you consider like if you're like a surgeon or something like that, using like VR to do like a surgery from across the world or something like that.
But you know the thing you'd run into then is like input lag. Yeah. You'd have to get like 1-to-1.
No.
You know,
it would have to be a dedicated line.
Yeah.
Which, I mean...
Which they could do.
Hell, at this point, who's to say Elon Musk doesn't come up with it? And
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, Elon Musky boy. Have you heard him talk about the Neuralink thing?
Yeah, that's crazy. It's insane.
That is unreal.
Yeah, I want no part of it.
No. God, no. I don't want anything surgically implanted into me. And unless it's going to save my life. I could imagine getting an accessory... installed.
Yeah, well, I mean, isn't like the whole thing of it right now is just like help people that like are paraplegic or something like that. They can use their legs again and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But eventually he wants to move it towards like
recreational use.
Yeah, where it's like you can communicate with somebody else simply by being, I guess, like information displacement through telekinesis or something. I don't know.
I guess.
Even how would you do that? But
well, the thing he kept saying was, you know. You're. I'm going to destroy this. He's obviously way smarter than me, but like, take your iPhone or any smart device, your computer, whatever it may happen to be. As long as you have an internet connection, you have access to the whole sum of human knowledge and experience. Yeah. The only thing standing in the way of you accessing that is your ability to comprehend and your ability to find that information, and also physically. You know, how long would it take Momo to Google something?
True.
You know, and me or you to Google the same thing.
No.
Not even Google. If you said find this article.
No.
And then use the computer to do it. You know what I mean?
No.
But the Neuralink thing was like, okay, if I'm like, if the computer's like kind of already in my head, I know that's not how it works.
No.
But it's like I have like this instant, communication ability with the computer. I don't know. To me, that would be such a mind fuck. My monkey brain's not ready for that.
At one point, it's like, how do you know where your consciousness is?
If I couldn't tell where my consciousness was,
yeah,
I think I would go into a coma.
Well,
I don't think I'd be able to deal with that.
If you didn't know where your consciousness was, it's like, how would you even know to get back to like reality, like where you are now?
How would you even understand that that's what was going on?
And not only that, but if your consciousness isn't in your body in reality, then who's to say that when it's somewhere else inside of whatever cloud infrastructure or something like that in the internet, it's like, who's to say that time isn't at a standstill for your consciousness then? So you could age years, millennia inside of that.
Oh, you're talking about like having a whole
inside of that space before you ever get back to your body.
Nope, don't like that. Don't like that.
Or you could never get back to your body, and you're just trapped. Your consciousness is trapped inside.
So you say your consciousness is like a data set.
Yes.
And you know as well as I do that there's a lot of motherfuckers on the internet.
Oh, plenty.
Probably more so than non-motherfuckers.
Yeah, exactly.
You might have, Sergey from the Ukraine, who's like a computer whiz or whatever, and he figured out how to catch people's like consciousnesses, their data packs, whatever, out of the internet, and then he's got a hold of your consciousness. That's just a data set at this point, like sending an email, and then he uploads it into some program where you experience like brutal torture for 1 million years.
No.
You know what I mean?
No.
I mean, I understand that's like some Black Mirror shit.
No.
But you can't say it's not a reality. It's not a possibility.
Well, I mean, at this point, anything's a possibility.
Yeah, I mean,
like if you went back 50 years and you were like, and you took this phone and you're like, hey, see this? The whole wealth of human knowledge is on this thing.
Right here in this rectangle.
Right here in this room, in my hand. Like, that would blow people's minds. They wouldn't be able to comprehend it.
They would be like, wow, you must be so smart. And you must be like, transcendent humanity. Like, no, I'm actually depressed.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, people leave mean comments on my Facebook page.
Somebody called me Fatty Boom Boom. I don't know. You can't predict the future. You can't tell. You can kind of get an idea where things are going to go.
No.
But nobody could have ever in 1 million years guessed
absolutely
that
not.
This is where we would be.
Well, it's like, okay, take for instance, back in like the 1860s or whatever, like everybody was still using horses for war, and they're using cannons and all this other stuff.
Yep.
Now, fast forward to the 1940s. That's 80 years from then.
Mm-hmm.
You have the atomic bomb.
Yep.
Like that. Imagine trying to explain the atomic bomb to somebody like during like the Civil War.
Yeah.
Like, how would you even go about?
Yeah, she's just like go up to like Ulysses S. Grant. He's sitting there like with his hand in his coat jacket. He's getting his portrait made, and he's scowling. And he looks like he's 40, but he's actually 18. And you're like, Ulysses, I have to tell you about this wonderful piece of technology that we have in the future. It's called the atom bomb. And he would say,
like, what's an atom?
Yes. What? What is an atom? Or I couldn't even know. What would he sound like? He wouldn't be like,
they wouldn't even know what a bomb is. I don't think they even have bombs. I guess they had TNT, but
yeah. What was who was the Ulysses S. Grant was the one from? He was the Union general. Who was the Confederate general?
Robert E. Lee.
I think that's it. Lee. I'm gonna do Robert E. Lee because I'm more familiar with what he may have sounded like. What the fuck's an atom? Like, well, it's a thing that makes up
everything
all of creation. Yeah. Like, oh, you mean Jesus?
Yeah, a Jesus bomb.
It's a Jesus bomb. We put Jesus in this little bomb, right? And we drop him from real high up, and he's so mad that we did that. He is hot.
That when he hits Earth, it's hell on Earth.
And we can do it a bunch of different times. He never learns.
Yeah.
He always gets in that bomb. He's trusting to a fault. One thing that always cracks me up is, people are like, if you could go back in time, what would you do? And they're like, oh, I'd go kill Hitler. Would you? Nobody was trying that?
Yeah.
There wasn't a whole war about that?
No. Well, I'd imagine, too, like, before that, who's to say that there wasn't, like, countries that looked at him and went, I don't know about this.
What do you mean?
Like, before World War II, like, kicked off.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to tell me that some of the other countries over there, because all those countries are so close together.
Right, yeah.
That some of them were like, I don't like this.
Germany and France is like Georgia and Alabama.
Yeah.
It'd be like if we're sitting here worrying about whether or not the governor of Alabama is going to lose his fucking mind one day and just invade everybody.
It's like, why does the governor of Alabama, what is he doing with all these Jews?
Why is he rounding them up?
Why is he rounding them up? That's how close it is. It's just like right next to one another.
I think the people from Europe, too, to like, they don't understand the scope of the United States.
No, they don't.
As far as like, how close we are to each other, how far away we are from each other.
No.
I've heard from, friends of mine who live over there be like, a 30-minute trip could put you in a different country. Whereas here, a 30-minute trip
could put you in the next
county over. Like, yeah,
Oh.
it's crazy. But,
well, that's the thing too. Is like you look at how large the U.S. is. Like it's not comparable to Russia or China as far as like land mass is concerned. But when you're talking about livable space,
yes,
like the amount of livable space that there is in the U.S. Like Russia, like everybody lives on that western portion of Russia. Everything else east of that, like there's not a whole lot going on over there.
It's like unlivable.
Yeah, it's unlivable.
Tundra.
Like Siberia and all that stuff. Where like even with China, you have like what's the desert over there? The Gobi Desert.
Is it the Gobi?
Yeah, I can't quite remember. I'm a dumbass, so who can...
me too.
But I know that takes up like a pretty decent portion of China. I mean, it's pretty large. I mean, that's not to say that like the U.S. doesn't have like what's the desert over there in Nevada?
Mojave.
Yeah. I mean, who's to... Yeah, but I mean, we're like, fuck it, we live there anyway. But
that's true, yeah. Like, we're going to fucking live here.
Yeah.
This is happening.
Yeah. And then people are like, I don't understand why there's no water.
What did we do wrong? And then you have, New Orleans, which is several hundred feet below sea level.
Yeah, under the water.
Under the water. Why do we keep flooding?
Yeah, exactly. It was the same thing with Houston. Houston sits in a bowl.
Yeah.
Like, so anytime it rains, it just, like, fills it up.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you can't run off anywhere.
Exactly. There's nowhere for it to go.
And that's the amazing thing is how fast it happens.
Yeah, and you wouldn't think that it would do that, but it does.
Well, our experience with rain here is, the part of Georgia we live in is very, you have a lot of variances in elevation.
No.
I mean, where we are, me and you right now, in my house, we're 200, 300 feet above, somebody sitting in gumbos right now.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's, 10 minutes away?
No.
But you don't see it like that.
Yeah, no.
When you're driving around,
you're driving around in the hills.
Yeah, it's not blatantly obvious to you. So when it rains here, the water has a lot of places to go, and it runs off. But places where it's flat, or like Houston, like you said, like a bowl, it just collects.
Yeah.
So like, if it rains over there for a day, oh shit.
Yeah,
absolutely. We have a problem if it rains over here for a day.
There's nowhere for it to go.
Yeah.
It collects and just stays there.
Yeah, that is a very interesting concept about like how different, different places in the U.S. alone are from one another, as far as the way nature affects those places.
Oh, absolutely. Like if you look at like Oklahoma, Nebraska, northern parts of Texas, like that's all Tornado Alley.
Yes.
Like it's nothing for them to see a couple F5s a year.
Yeah.
Like just wreck houses, come through there and just destroy people's lives and shit.
Yeah.
Whereas like here, like we might have a tornado once every 5 or 6 years, and usually it's a small one, and it just kind of hits and it goes away.
Yeah.
I mean, they had like the one in Tuscaloosa a couple years ago that kind of fucked the campus up over there.
Yeah. I remember that.
Every once in a while, there's a bad one that rolls through, but not like it is.
I feel like Alabama gets hit pretty bad.
Well, they're a little bit flatter than we are too.
Yeah.
Like northern Alabama, there's like a little bit of where the Appalachian comes down, and it kind of goes into Alabama. Mm-hmm. But like that whole like mid to like southern part of Alabama, that's all flat.
Yeah. You know, talking about the Tuscaloosa one, I remember. I can remember when that one came through, and we were driving out. We were driving out that way for some reason, and we drove past that particular stretch of I-20 where the tornado had went over it, and it was just like this, half a mile wide swath of complete destruction, where it had just ripped all the trees and all that shit out, and it went forever in that direction, and on the other side of the road it just kept going, and I was like, I couldn't imagine. It's hard for me to fathom that kind of power.
Oh yeah, I mean anything that will take a damn pine needle and shove it through a tree trunk.
Yeah, or into the concrete.
Into the concrete. You can't fathom like that amount of force.
Yeah.
Because I mean I've heard people like they'll suffocate inside a tornado like that because it sucks the air like out of their lungs.
Yeah.
Like that's how fast that vortex is moving.
That's insane.
Of course, then again, this is all unfounded evidence that I'm speaking of.
Yeah.
So
this is just coming out of my ape brain.
But yeah, so I mean, like even within Georgia, like really when you think about it, where we are at in Georgia really as a whole, in parts of Tennessee, like we don't get a whole lot of snow, we don't get a whole lot of too crazy much like weather. It's like we
do get a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Like, but we might get an earthquake once every 50 years.
I have never experienced an earthquake.
I've heard people say that we've had earthquakes before, but I've never felt one.
We had one recently, and I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't.
It seems to always be when I'm in like REM sleep.
No.
I'm just not going to notice it.
Or it's like with California, where it's just like
any day now.
It's like hell on earth.
Yeah, any day now it's going to crack off the mainland and.
It's like,
the San Andreas
we
fault.
have wildfires. It's like, have you seen the videos like the wildfires where it's just like, it looks like Doom Guy's going to come walking out of the hills?
Yeah, where they're like driving through it or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you remember the fire in Gatlinburg 2-3 years ago?
I remember seeing pictures and stuff, and I remember like seeing some like news like coverage of it.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, somebody's shitty little kids set a fire off up in the woods, and it destroyed millions of lives. Which kind of seems to be the case for most of those wildfires.
Interesting. I know that the one in California was a gender reveal. What an asshole.
I saw a picture where somebody there was a picture of the fat man dropping, and they said it's a boy. Yeah, but I remember the one in Gatlinburg specifically because it happened not long after we had just left from that area. And so, that area was still kind of fresh in my mind, like about where things were. So when they were posting all the pictures of like the destruction, I was like, "Fuck!" I remember what that building right there used to look like. And now it's just a smoldering pile of rubble.
Yeah, it's crazy to look at it and be like, I know what used to be there.
Right. And then the video, I remember watching a video of somebody who was up in the mountains, like up in one of those cabins, and they were trying to evacuate, and the whole mountain was on fire. And they were like driving through a fire. And,
Yeah, no thanks.
You seem, at least me personally, I always seem to forget just how hot fire is. Do you know what I mean?
Like,
I know it sounds stupid.
Fuck that pussy ass.
but I might be next to a campfire once a year, if that.
Yeah.
And then I'll be sitting kind of close to him, like, this is kind of hot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly. Now imagine that on all sides of you.
Yeah.
And it's like 15 feet high.
And the trees are exploding because it's so hot. I can't in my mind imagine what that must be like.
Imagine the heat coming off of it.
Yeah.
It would almost be, I think it would be, unbearable is the right word. But at the same time, it's like I can't fathom what it feels like. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Especially that, the radiant heat.
Yeah.
Because
without it even touching you. I mean, it's
Right.
probably unbearable.
Yeah, without actually being on fire.
Yeah.
And I've heard, not from people who have been on fire before, but they say that when someone is immolated, that their nervous system, like within a couple seconds, just like is fried, and they can't feel anything.
Well, probably your body's like defense mechanism. It's like it shuts down. Like
probably, I imagine it has a lot to do with shock as well. But like also, your nerves are a physical thing, and are therefore susceptible to fire damage. So
well, yeah, so it sends electrical currents to your brain to let you know what's going on. But if all of them are melted to a fucking crisp,
they're not. Then they don't work.
Yeah.
And then all you're getting at that point is like visual stimuli, which who knows what you're seeing when you're on fire.
Yeah.
Just probably just fire.
Yeah, probably just fire.
So, there's your brain is, you had those times where your brain takes over. Your lizard brain takes over.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, you're too much of a fucking idiot to understand what the amount of peril that we're in.
Yeah.
I'm taking over. I'm getting us out of this.
Yeah.
And then so your lizard brain takes the reins, and you're on fire, and it's just like, you know what? I got nothing. It's like you fucked it up.
It's either like fight or flight, and like if your lizard brain goes, if it starts to panic, and then you're fucked.
What do you mean you don't know what to do? You're the one who's supposed to figure this out.
And then it's just like running around.
Our only option is to freak out. That's an interesting thought that when your brain takes over like that, and the decision it makes is to flip out.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like do everything all at once. It's just like piss yourself, shit yourself, scream, run, flail your arms around.
Flail your arms.
Something's got to happen.
It's sort of like when Buster bit Mama on the hand.
Are you saying that
I didn't say she shit her pants.
No, I'm saying she got bit by a dog. Their autonomous brain took over.
Well, I remember her just being like, holding her hand high at the mic. Her just being like, ah! It's like, and I remember even like as a kid, I was like, oh, what the fuck?
I wasn't there for that when that happened, but I remember seeing the hole punched to her thumb.
Yeah, I just remember her like, we were like standing out there, and I heard Buster yelp, and then Mama got out of the car, and he was like going around and around like in a circle.
Yeah.
And I remember she like went to go like pet him or like see what was wrong. And I remember Dad being like, no, don't. And then as soon as he did that, Buster's like chomped onto her hand.
Yeah.
And then Dad like kicked him.
He kicked Buster.
Yeah. And then Mama was like dancing around holding her hand. And like as a kid, I was like, what is going on?
Because it all happened so fast.
Because like as a kid, you can't conceptualize what is happening.
Yeah. You just understand that something is happening.
Something has happened.
And you have a general idea of whether or not it's a good thing or a bad thing. But, it's funny because, that was Buster's lizard brain taking over.
Yeah, exactly.
It was like, oh, my tail hurts. Bite.
Yeah.
Just bite. Whatever it is, bite it.
I mean, like, if you think about, like, what if, like, the Earth had no adults and it was all just children running around and something bad happened? Like, 99.9% of children are going to freeze up. They wouldn't know what to do.
You don't think anybody would, like, step up and...
Eventually...
What's the age cutoff we're talking? Like, a bunch of, like...
Like, 8-year-olds.
8-year-olds?
Yeah. I can feel like 9, that's when you kind of start...
Yeah. It would be a girl, though, if anybody did.
Oh, yeah.
If anybody would step up and be like, okay, we got to take control of the situation, it would be a girl.
Yeah, it'd just be like her saying what to do and all these, like, slack-jawed boys.
These
like
Neanderthal males. I don't listen to girls.
While somebody's flailing while they're fucking on fire.
Children on fire. Speaking of, I guess you could call it whatever apocalyptic event that would be, that all the adults were gone. I watched something recently. I can't remember what it was, but it was a movie, and at the end, it was, what was it? At the end of the movie, the world ends.
You have to be more specific than that.
well, see, that's the thing is, I don't feel like a lot of movies. It was Seeking a Friend for the End of the World.
Oh, is that the one
Steve
with
Carell?
Yeah, Steve Carell
And Keira Knightley or Natalie Portman. One of those two.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but I just thought it was interesting because, spoiler alert for anybody that hasn't watched it. The end of the world actually happens.
Oh,
it actually, I think it was like a meteor or comet or something was going to crash into the world.
Yeah, it's like right there at the end where they're like watching on the TV or whatever.
Well, they were laying in bed.
Yeah. That's right.
And it was almost kind of like I was watching. It was almost surreal because like all he wanted was someone to love and to be with.
No.
And she just didn't want to be alone. So they kind of wanted the same thing.
No.
But they're laying in bed here at the end of the movie, and Steve Carell, he's very calm, and he's got someone.
No.
And she is freaking out. She's scared because the end of the world is it's actively happening.
No.
And I remember I was watching the movie, and I'm like, almost every other movie that has that whole, the world's going to end thing hanging overhead, there's always some like Deus Ex Machina thing that happens where, like, oh, we figured out that such and such, or like, if we do this, then the world won't end.
No.
Nobody ever has the balls
to actually
end the world, to where the bad thing does happen.
No.
Another movie that does that is Cabin in the Woods. I know you've seen Cabin in the Woods. They fail to appease the old god or whatever at the end, and he comes out and he destroys the world.
No.
And it's like, you know what? I applaud you for actually having, the gumption. The gumption to actually end the world, because I feel like, I don't know, most of the time when you watch a movie and like the world is at stake, you could almost always... Yeah,
you always know there's like
there's going to be some caveat where something happens and they save the world.
Yeah. Well, sort of like, it really isn't... I guess it's an apocalyptic movie. It was... it came out, it's called The Mist. Have you ever seen that?
Stephen King movie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like there at the end...
where he shoots everybody.
Where he shoots everybody in the car. Spoiler alert. And then he's like waiting for the thing, like it's like the interdimensional monster to come by.
He's like, come and get me!
Yeah, and then it's the army.
Yeah, and they're clearing everything out.
I was like, oh, that's great. I love that.
Oh man, if he had just waited just a couple minutes.
I liked that ending so much because I didn't see that coming.
Yeah.
Like it was such a twist right there at the end. And it's not like M. Night Shyamalan twist where it's like, that you're going to get the twist at some point because that's like his whole deal.
Yeah.
But like with that movie, and I hadn't read the book, I'm assuming that it was a book because it's Stephen King.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was like, when that happened, I didn't see it coming, so it was such a great ending.
Well, arguably that is a better ending than the monster does come and get him.
Yeah.
And then fade to black or whatever. No. Because that's the thing you expect is that the monster's coming.
Yeah, well, but also at the same time, when you have like this caveat of like, oh, now everything's okay, like that doesn't really speak to the human experience because it's not saying like it doesn't always work out like that.
Yeah.
Like. Some people, something shitty happens to them, and it's just shitty. Like, there's nothing, there's no redeeming quality to it.
That's the up and down of it. It's shitty, and it's going to be shitty, and your life is forever changed by that thing.
Yep. To bring it back to what we were talking about earlier, so when we were talking about I'm assuming it's a gentleman that did the Vegeta phone.
Vegeta phone?
The Vegeta phone background. It looks like he took that from like a so it's like the Vegeta with the prison tats, and he's wearing a vest of some sort, and it looks like maybe like that background to maybe like a Creed CD or something like that.
Oh yeah.
So this guy or gal's name is TMXXLX, and you can find them on Fiverr if you're interested.
Please.
So shout him out.
I implore you. Please go and look at this guy's art.
Please.
It is art. Do not fool yourself.
Yeah. So hopefully we can drive some business his way. Yeah, he's doing his basic is 5, his standard's 10, and his premium's 15.
Fair prices for his work.
Yes, fair prices for the work, absolutely. So if, like I said, if anybody's interested in that, go check him out. I was really surprised by like how how many people on Fiverr you could get a hold of to do things for for the podcast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There's a lot of services.
Yeah, there's a lot of services.
Oh, speaking of, I want to shout out the people that worked on the art for the podcast. We had 2 thumbnails made. The one thumbnail with the purple background, I wanted to give her a shout out. You can find her by searching Laura Carte. It may be Laura C-R-E, I don't know. LORACARTE. And on Instagram, it's LORAC.ARTE. She did. That one was incredible.
Yes.
I was really blown away by what she did. And the other one was Lucas_PG2525. You can find him on Instagram. He also does a lot of good work. Very different style than what Laura came up with. But also, it's, really captured exactly what I was asking for.
Yeah, absolutely.
They both did really great work. So,
yeah. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe that that is the artwork that we chose for our Discord.
Is it?
For the podcast.
Oh, yeah, You're right. Yeah. So if anybody is looking for artwork made, definitely look both of them up.
Yeah, and the last shout out that I want to give is for the guy that came up with our podcast intro song. And you can find him on Fiverr, and his name on there is Mark SHWEDOW. So that'd be MarkShWEDOW. And he did a great job as well. He really we gave him an idea of what it was that we wanted, and I think we're extremely happy with what he gave us.
He gave us exactly
what we were looking for.
I'm a real big fan of in the recent past 2 years. I've kind of come around. I don't want to say come around because that makes it sound like I didn't like it to begin with, but I really turned on to that synthwave.
Like
genre.
That 80s style.
Yeah. That 80s, I guess you could call it 80s techno, but it's a bit more...
Maybe.
I would say it's a bit more melodic than techno.
No.
Well, techno itself is such a broad term because, I guess techno would imply that you have a lot of synthesizers, drum loops, things like that, all done... via computer or what have you, but that whole synthwave style is really cool to me. I think it captures that era really, really well. That sound, and the way to describe it is how would you describe synthwave? I think I like Blade Runner.
Yeah, sort of like
there's a lot of visual aesthetic that goes along with it too.
Yeah, it's that, and then also if you play like a lot of like 80s styles, like arcade video games,
especially racing games.
Yeah, racing games most definitely. Yeah, there's a lot of that in there too.
Yeah, it's such a cool sound. It's synthwave. I think it first came about. It was all done with actual instruments, and they just through compressors or EQ or what have you, they got that sound. A staple of that sound is the toms, that doo-doo-doo-doo, that that you hear that drum fill a lot. That's a very iconic sound of that genre. I try to think of like what other sounds are iconic of other genres. I can't really come up with anything, but that tom drum fill is very much so a synthwave thing.
Yeah, I think if really the only other genre that I could maybe think of that has like a very specific sound is like the late 60s, early 70s, like Hendrix Doors, where you have like a lot of like distortion, like with the guitar when they first started experimenting with it and everything. Yeah. That has a very specific sound to it.
Yeah, it does. A lot of organs. They used a lot of organs in those music back then. I think Pink Floyd. Is it Wish You Were Here? there's a part where you hear there's like a thing that goes like wah wah, makes a noise like that, and that's an organ. So not like an actual organ, but they used that same organ sound a lot in not Fortunate Son. What's that one? It's oh man, I'm drawing a huge blank. It's such a big song.
House of the Rising Sun?
No, it's God Almighty, what is it? It's Rolling Stones. You know, it's almost synonymous with that Vietnam War era. Shelter? Is it Gimme Shelter?
Yeah, Gimme Shelter.
Gimme Shelter, yeah. You
That's
hear
a
that?
great song.
That's a fantastic song. I can't remember the name of the lady who did the backup vocals in that song, but you know, in the chorus or whatever, you hear her singing over the top of what's his face.
Yeah.
I'm so bad with names, especially when it comes to bands, but she has an incredible vocal range, and she does this really cool thing, like she almost kind of like cracks her voice.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
But it's part of her singing style, I guess. But yeah, powerful singing voice on that woman. I just wish I remember what her name was. But yeah, you can look up the song and you can tell what I'm talking about. It's about the halfway point during that song.
Yeah, really an underrated song as far as that
Really
era
is.
is concerned.
Yeah.
Like you have like Fortunate Son, which was
Son,
massive
for sure. Yeah.
during that era, and then
Almost kind of like a meme at this point.
Yeah, and then you have like House of the Rising Sun, which
Yeah.
was massive during that time, and then Gimme Shelter was really kind of an afterthought. I think. I mean, I would have to ask somebody that was, you know, knew more about it if they were alive during that time and kind of knew what the music scene was like. But just from what I've seen, the popularity of the songs during that era, I think that Gimme Shelter was really an underrated song during that time.
Yeah, I agree. Mary Clayton was her name. MERRYCLAYTON. You can look up on YouTube some of the different different songs that she sang in, and criminally unrelated. Criminally underrated.
There you go.
Singer. I would venture to say that there's no one like her, and there's been no one like her.
No.
Her singing ability, you can actually find her vocals from Gimme Shelter isolated.
Yeah.
It's incredible what she's able to do.
Speaking of, did you see where, I guess, Miley Cyrus is doing a cover album of Metallica songs?
Excuse me?
Yep, that's exactly what's getting ready to
The
happen.
audacity?
Yeah, exactly. Like, and some people are like, oh, well, yeah, I think that she has the voice to do it and everything like that. It's like, whether she does or she doesn't, it's like, I want you to leave my music alone. Like, I've turned into like the old man on the front porch. It's like, get off my lawn. Except it's like, stop fucking with my music. It's like, I know I don't have to listen to it, but it makes me angry.
Yeah, the simple fact that it exists pisses me off. Yeah. No, I get it. I've never really... I don't dislike Metallica. I appreciate what they did.
Yeah,
and what
absolutely.
they did for the genre.
Yeah. They were the band.
Yeah, they were the band.
They were the band.
I'm not going to sit here and downplay their fame or their ability or their talent
like
or whatever.
If you like their newer stuff is certainly not as good as like Ride the Lightning,
no,
or any of that other stuff.
For me, my opinion of Metallica was definitely driven home with Saint Anger.
Oh yeah, it's an awful album.
It's just a terrible album.
It's just so bad.
What's that song? What's that one song? Frantic.
Yeah.
Where he's just got that garbage can snare.
No.
It's like plong 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 plong, and he just had to have had the biggest, happiest smile on his face. Like, this is the best tone I've ever gotten out of this drum. Blang 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 blang. But yeah, I've never been a huge fan of Metallica. I don't dislike Metallica. Aaron hates Metallica.
Really?
Yeah, Aaron is our younger brother. For anybody that doesn't know. But he cannot stand Metallica, and it drives him up the wall. And I get it.
Yeah,
I totally get it. But I don't hate him as much as he does.
I mean, some of their stuff, like, I certainly don't care for. Like, anything off Saint Anger was awful. But I mean, if you're talking about like Master of Puppets, like that's a great song.
Yeah.
Or like the CD or the album that they did with the orchestra with
S&M.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a really good CD.
Mm-hmm.
Just because at the time, it's like, who would have thought that an orchestra along with like any type of metal music would have been worth a damn?
It's like peanut butter and jelly.
Yeah, but it works awesome.
It does. Yeah. Yeah, I feel like you started seeing it a lot more too after Metallica did that.
Yeah.
Because people were like, holy crap, this is incredible. This is a fantastic sound. And I'm sure there's probably some science behind why it sounds so good. I don't know what it would be.
I'm too much of a dumbass to figure it out.
But I just
I'm
know
just
that.
like, duh!
I like that. It make my brain happy. Oh man, Coheed and Cambria.
Yeah, true.
I
love the band, but his voice.
You can't have been all I wanted.
Yeah, it really it turns me off to music. I'm just like, if I could just isolate just the.
Yeah. No, I agree. He must be foreign because his enunciation is really odd.
It is.
And I know that sometimes, especially when you're singing, you enunciate things differently because it sounds better. Especially your soft vowel sounds, you enunciate.
Yeah, like you don't want hard R's, any of that stuff in there.
The word "you."
Yeah.
They say "yo." It's almost like "yeah," almost a little bit sometimes.
It just sounds better when you're singing. It
sounds better that way. It's like if somebody "you." I guess unless Soulja Boy.
True.
It sounded pretty good.
Well, he made a lot of money off of it.
That song has 5 tracks.
Really?
That's all that compares. It's like the marimba, like a snare, a kick, and his vocal track, and maybe an effects track. But he made so much fucking money.
So much money.
So much fucking money off that song. Have you heard "Bitch, I Look Like Goku"? It's another project of his where he's just like, "Bitch, I look like Goku. Bitch, I look like Goku." It's not good.
Yeah, it doesn't sound good.
No, it's not. But bless him.
Yeah. He's made a lot of money.
He's made more money than I ever will.
Absolutely. Don't disrespect his game.
But I feel like there's a lot to be said about making a simple song. As long as it's catchy, it'll take off.
Well, it's look at most of the pop albums and stuff. They're mostly using the same 5 chords or something like that.
Not even that. Usually it's a 3-chord progression.
Yeah.
It's
I don't know.
A 1, a 3, and a 5.
I don't know shit about music, but I know every time I listen to anything new on and I hardly ever turn on the radio anymore. Yeah. Most of the time it's just I use my Amazon music and I go listen to stuff I want to listen to there.
Yeah.
Because I like all of the late 90s, early 2000s. That was the era that I listened to most of those bands.
Right.
You have Stone Temple Pilots and Incubus and.
I don't like Stone Temple Pilots.
You don't like Stone Temple Pilots?
I don't like the way that he sounds. I don't like the way his voice
That
sounds.
was a big thing during that time too, because a lot of lead singers did that exact same vocal sound.
Yeah.
That gravelly.
Mm-hmm. Well, that was right off the end of the grunge. Or in the middle of the grunge era.
Yeah.
I never really liked grunge, to be entirely honest. I hate Nirvana.
There Smells Like Teen Spirit's okay. Really, other than that, if I had to pick my favorite grunge band, it would be Alice in Chains.
Okay, I love Alice in Chains.
There's a couple of Pearl Jam songs I like, but as far as the big 3 grunge bands where you're talking about, well, I don't know, because not Audio Slave. What was the one that Chris Cornell was in before Audio Slave?
Before Audio Slave?
Yeah.
Soundgarden?
Soundgarden was a grunge band, from what I understand.
Yeah.
So, and he's awesome. I love Chris Cornell. He was amazing.
One of my all-time favorite songs is "I Stay Away" by Alice in Chains.
Yeah.
That's a great song. You ever seen the music video for that?
Mm-mm.
It's stop motion claymation.
Really?
Yeah, very ethereal, very strange visuals
Which is,
and stuff.
It's interesting to me how big rock was, in the early 90s, going forward into the early 2000s. There was all these bands and had all these big hits and they were all on the radio, and then all of a sudden it just went away.
What do you mean? The grunge scene?
really like rock in general. I mean, other than like some metalcore stuff now that comes on the radio, most of it's old shit.
Well, I mean, pop really took up. Well, pop just means popular.
Yeah.
But I think you have boy bands to thank for that. NSYNC and what's the other one with Joey Fat One?
Oh, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys. Yeah.
I can't believe I forgot fucking Backstreet Boys.
98 Degrees or whatever it was.
Is it? I don't even know who that is.
Yeah, I think that was like the third one. They were kind of like the like this.
They're like the Libertarian Party.
Yeah, they're like the redheaded stepchild.
Yeah.
They're like, quit taxing us, damn it.
Yeah, I think a lot of that fault lies with boy bands because none of them. All that music was like I call it manufactured music. The music was made for them, and then you just have these pretty faces and voices that you put on front of it, and that's where all the credit goes. That's where all the attention goes, and it was very easy to, have professional musicians understand what makes a song catchy, make a catchy song, write these hollow lyrics. No. And as long as you have somebody sexy singing it,
that can halfway sing decently, and most of the time you can auto tune most of that shit out. So
bing bang boom, there you go, you got a hit, and that's still the way it is today.
Well, I mean, even like they were big during that time too, but I specifically remember, and whether you like them or not, they were massive. Was Linkin Park? They were huge.
Yeah,
like everybody knew who Linkin Park was.
They were kind of a fusion of like.
They were like that. Really, like, when I think of nu metal, there's really, like, two bands I think of.
Korn?
I don't think of Korn.
Really?
I think of Linkin Park, and sadly, I think of Limp Bizkit.
I was about to say, is it Limp Bizkit?
I think of Limp Bizkit. That's the other one. Those are the two.
Hands up or hands down. What you gonna do now? How did he get so famous singing like that? He sounds like he's about to cry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna break something.
Just keep on rolling, baby. You know what time it is.
What was that Mashed Potato Johnson voice? Is that how the song starts out?
Yeah, I think for rolling it is.
You know what time it is.
You know what time it is.
You know what time it is, baby. It's rolling time. I'm a rolling.
It's like this old blues singer.
Yeah, it's like old cracked up. I don't want to say cracked up black guy because that makes it sound like I'm talking about drugs. I mean, he's old and he's cracked. His skin is cracked. An old cracked black man with his straw hat. He comes in there with that guitar with like the silver thing on the front. You know what I'm talking about? He's like, I got these songs I want to play for you folks. Hands up and hands down. What you gonna do now? I'm rolling. Keep on rolling. Yeah, what's his name? Is it Fred Durst?
Yeah, Fred Durst. I don't know how they got big. I don't know how it happened.
It was because
he
took his shirt off and he had the abs and the pecs, and that's what sells.
I think it was just like one of those things. There was like enough.
It's also really edgy.
Yeah, there's like enough. Yeah, and like that's a big thing for teens, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if it was like, oh, we drink and we smoke and we rap and we're white trash, and there was enough like.
There's enough Kyles in the world. They're like, that's Kyles.
Me. Yeah, before Monster Energy came out.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a weird genre because
it's hard to pin down what that genre is.
Yeah, like, and he was like beefing with like Insane Clown Posse and like Eminem.
Was he?
Yeah, like him and like Limp Bizkit and Eminem had like a huge beef.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's like I probably wouldn't beef with Eminem.
Yeah.
If I was Fred Durst.
I think I'd stay inside my genre if I was going to beef with anybody.
Exactly.
Because at least
like,
then,
when are you going to beef with Korn?
Well,
you're going to beef with Linkin Park.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna drop Linkin Park's going to drop a diss track on Limp Bizkit.
Well, you know what? Old Freddie Boy made his money.
Yeah, he certainly did.
They all did. They made their money. It's interesting that you say you don't think Korn is nu metal because when somebody says nu metal, I immediately think Korn. But yeah, I guess they don't have that, like, there's like a hip hop aspect of nu metal almost that's got to be there, I guess.
And that's what, and like somebody had said to me before, they're like, oh, Slipknot is nu metal, and it's like,
no, Slipknot. If you listen to any of their old stuff, they were thrash. They started out thrash metal.
Like, yeah, maybe some of their songs are like kind of new metal, but that's certainly not the genre that they're in. At least I don't think that it is.
You know, Slipknot was almost not a band like 100 times.
Yeah, well,
I remember watching a documentary on them. They just could not get it together.
No.
Corey Taylor specifically was, one of the big problems there.
It's the same thing that happened with Pantera and their front man. Was it? He broke his neck.
He broke his neck.
And then shot heroin into his fucking neck.
Oh my god. That is insane. That's so fucking rock star. I mean, really, it is.
Yeah, like, what's more metal than, like, breaking your fucking neck and then shooting heroin into it to numb the pain?
What was it? What was his name? What's that guy's name?
Let me see.
For anybody, I would say for anybody who's still listening, the lead singer of Pantera during a show, I don't know what he did. He jumped off an amp, or maybe he tried to jump into the crowd. I don't remember exactly what happened, but he broke his neck. So the story goes, he broke his neck. They stopped the show. He went backstage and injected heroin into his neck and came back out and finished the show. Absolutely incredible.
Let's see. It's not Vinnie Paul, is it?
No, Vinnie was one of the guitarists.
Yeah.
Or was he the drummer?
Vinnie might have been the drummer. Dimebag Darrell was the...
Dimebag was the guitarist.
Phil Anselmo?
Anselmo?
Yeah.
That sounds like a wrestler.
Yeah, Phil Anselmo.
Phil Anselmo. Oh, here comes Phil Anselmo! Speaking of crazy musician names, I think the lead singer for Five Finger Death Punch, I think his name is Zoltan Barathery.
Get out of here.
It's something like that. Or his guitarist has that name. It's along those lines. One of them is named Zoltan. Or Zoltar.
The lead singer for Five Finger Death Punch, his name is Ivan L. Moody.
Okay, so it's not him.
But you are correct. There is... It looks to be...
Was there anything close to what I was saying?
Yeah, Zoltan Barathery is a Hungarian-born American musician and martial artist.
His name is actually Zoltan Barathery?
Yeah, Zoltan Bathory.
Oh, Bathory.
Zoltan Bathory.
Okay, so not Barathery.
No. Close enough.
Close enough.
Close enough.
Zoltan.
Zoltan.
Do you think they got him out of like a lamp, like an oil lamp? And it's like my wish is for you to play guitar in my edgy band.
Yeah, they're the they're the worst when it comes to pandering to first responders and military.
Hey, it works.
It works. It sells.
Yeah,
it certainly sells.
But to be fair, at least they come by it honest, because they do they do a lot of charity stuff.
Yeah, they do a lot of charity stuff. I mean,
but they know who their fans are.
Oh yeah, they definitely know who's buttering their bread. Yeah. They're not gonna be like, they're not gonna go do a fucking show for like over in like Iraq or something like that, and then turn around and go to fucking Chaz in fucking Seattle and be like all these people out there waving like pink dildos, wearing masks and shit.
Oh, I forgot about that. What was it? The something autonomous zone?
Yeah, it's like I can't remember.
It is wild to me.
It was it was Chaz and then it was Chop.
Was it Chop?
Yeah. Chaz, Seattle. Capitol Hill organized protest is what is showing.
So the other
Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone.
Yeah.
Chaz.
How big was it? It was a couple blocks, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a couple blocks. I think they took over and like immediately started like beating the fuck out of people.
But I thought it was like a liberal wonderland. Maybe liberals are just like, they just love to fight.
Maybe it's just like they love
to throw down.
Yeah, they love to throw down, but like they don't want to say it. They're not just like, hey,
they just take over a couple blocks of a major metropolitan area. Yeah.
It's like if they just came out and they were like, hey, like we like to fuck shit up.
Yeah.
And everybody be like, all right.
Yeah, we can see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wild. I can't believe that happened. I can't believe it went on for as long as it did. But how do you handle a situation like that? Because I mean,
I don't think there's really anything that you can do because it's already charged as it is.
Yeah, the police can't come in there, and the National Guard can't come in there and just start plugging people. As much as some people.
No, you don't want it to turn into a Kent State situation where you're shooting protesters and shit.
They just bring the ATF out there. They have no problem.
Yeah, no, they'll start shooting dogs everywhere.
They just like as soon as they're out of the truck, they're like, you're shooting the wrong way. They're shooting as you turn it around.
They're like shooting birds out of trees.
I want to do like a skit where like an ATF like man and wife, like they both work for the ATF, like it goes through like their morning routine, and like from like getting up, taking a shower, eating breakfast, they just like shooting things. It's just like he's like in the shower, he's just like shooting the floor and just, hey honey, bam 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 bam.
Like goes to like turn the shower and like shooting it.
Like, ooh, a little hot, bang 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 bang. Oh, a big day today. Lots of dogs to shoot.
I will say this: I'm glad that the election is over.
Me too.
I'm glad that it's over. Like whoever's the president is, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. Either way, I honestly think that we're fucked either way. Mm-hmm. However, I'm glad that it's over and that we can stop fucking talking about it.
But are they going to stop talking about it? Because the thing now is that they think that...
Yeah, the thing is, too, is regardless of what happens during this election, I'm afraid that we've opened the can of worms and we're not going to be able to get them back in. Mm-hmm. I think that from now on, that the way that the past two elections have been handled is going to be the way that every election is handled moving forward. Right. Because they got more voter turnout than ever before.
Because it was so sensational.
Yeah, so if like they're just going to keep going with that. Mm-hmm. Like it's going to be both sides just hammering away at each other. Yeah. Like it's going to be a shit show from now on.
There's almost like there's no decorum.
No, fuck no.
Because I mean, did you recently someone posted the video of McCain's what do they call it, concession speech?
Yeah.
Where he conceded the win to Obama. Mm-hmm. And you listen to his speech, and it was very dignified, and he accepted that he lost, and he's like, "I wish Obama the best of luck, and I'll do everything I can to help him." And you're not going to ever see that again.
Fuck no, that
was it. That was the last one.
Yeah, that's not a thing anymore. No, because division drives more voters out.
Yeah, clearly it does. Yeah.
Whereas like back then, it was one of those deals where it was. I feel. Not so much during that time, but especially like the early 2000s, like the Bush-Gore deal, where it was more or less everybody kind of was on the same page, but there was a few things that separated the two. Like there's a lot more centrists. Yeah. And then there's like you could sway them one way or the other depending upon how they wanted to vote on a particular issue. But now it's one of these deals where it doesn't matter who's running as long as the person that you're voting for has the tie that you like. Yep. Whether or not it's red or whether or not it's blue. Yep. Which is really disappointing. I think I wish that there was more representation from other parties in Washington.
Yeah, I agree. I mean,
because the duopoly is just not working.
No. Well, I mean, you can't have two options and expect that to be sufficient for however many people live in this country.
It's worse than a monopoly because it gives you this false sense of choice. Yeah. Where, in all actuality, like neither one of them want to relinquish power.
Right.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's like whether or not you vote red or whether or not you vote blue, either way, you're still going to get more people that want to tell you what to do. Yeah. So this is my take on it.
Well, and I feel like a lot of people vote it's completely based on red or blue. And
absolutely.
Even Donald Trump, he pushed that. Vote red wave.
No.
And
you should
vote based on who has policies
that most align with
your political view.
Exactly.
And this election and the past election, I really looked into that, and okay, well, who do I agree with, who I disagree with, and that's who I voted for. It wasn't okay. I'm looking for the R. Where's the R? R all the way down, or D, whatever it happened to be. I voted for Reverend Warnock this election.
No,
because I looked into his policies, and he is in line with the way I feel about a lot of social issues. I voted, of course, I voted Joe Jorgensen for president this year. But I voted for Gary Johnson in 2016.
I did the same thing.
I feel like you're probably a little bit more libertarian than I am. I think I probably have a little bit more of I can't say this, authoritarian streak in me, probably, a little bit. But I'm definitely not a Democrat. I definitely don't consider myself to be a Republican.
No, not anymore. I remember going like late teens, like I considered myself to be a Republican, but just the more that I saw the party, like what they were doing, I'm just like, this does not align.
Well, what Republicans became and what Democrats became they're not what they used to be.
No, absolutely
They're
not.
like these bastardizations of what they used to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like the reason for that is because, like you said, division drives voter turnout.
No.
So you're not going to have a whole lot of division between a Democratic Party and a Republican Party that are close to each other in political ideology. But if they're on either end of the spectrum, there's a huge division there. And so you're going to have a mass of people that go to this side and a mass of people that go to that side.
No. And there's still, and the thing is that there's still a lot of people that are in the middle that do this thing where it's like, well, I don't like either one of these candidates, but I have to vote for one of them.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Where I honestly wish that they would get rid of parties. I wish that nobody could run underneath the party. Mm-hmm. I wish that what they would do is you had to run on your platform. You had to run on what your policies are.
Yeah.
And you can't attach your name to a party. Then just get votes just because you're attached to a party.
Yeah. I wish that, speaking of political ads, I wish you could only talk about yourself.
Yes.
I wish you could not mudfling.
Nope.
Because I am so sick of that's part of the reason why I voted for Reverend Warnock. Everything I saw out of him, he just talked about himself and his ideologies and his policies. And then you got fucking
Laughlin or whatever.
What was I about to say?
The lady that he's running against.
Well, her, but then the other races you've got Ossoff and
Purdue.
And Purdue. And the only thing they did was talk about Ossoff's. He's a little liar. He sucks China pee and this, that, and the other. And then Ossoff was like, Purdue hates women and pussies, and he's going to get rid of them.
Yeah.
You want that? Just
no.
Don't tell me about him. Tell me about
you.
Tell
me what's your plan? What are you going to do?
I don't know. I just.
Well, that too, and I feel like the current structure of the debates and stuff, it doesn't do a good job of allowing people to understand who the political figures are that are running for office. Whereas, like, if you had a situation where they could sit down and they had 2 hours to sit with Chris Wallace or somebody, and Chris Wallace just ask that person a question and be like, look, here's the deal. Be like, you answered the questions that I asked you. You can go on for however long it is that you want. You have 2 hours. There's still going to be no commercial breaks. That way the American public can get to know you. However, if you start talking about the other candidate, the conversation's over.
Yeah.
There's not going to be any more conversation. You're not going to get asked any more questions.
Yeah.
And I think they should do it where, like, one night would be whoever this person is running for. I think they should do, like, four top candidates.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's Republican, Democrat, Green Party, and Libertarian. If that's the top four, then... But it shouldn't be just the two.
Yeah.
There should be more people that get to voice their opinions on what their policies are.
Right.
Instead of everybody feeling like they just have to vote for two people.
Yeah. And a lot of people really do believe that that's all that they have.
Or it's like... one party does not represent all of my thoughts.
Even the Libertarian Party doesn't represent everything.
There's certain things with the Libertarian Party that I don't agree with, but at the same time,
I think people should have driver's licenses for one thing.
Exactly.
Me and Joe Jorgensen didn't agree on that.
Yeah,
so.
I don't agree with them on the fact that we should have totally open borders.
No.
It's like, I don't agree with that either. But there's enough stuff there for that party where it's like, I agree with enough there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, but if another person came along and they voiced opinions that were more closely related to me or in what I feel, then I would vote for that person.
Right. And, did you see did you watch any of the debate, the first presidential debate?
About 5 minutes of it, and I turned it off.
What a shit show.
That was a shit show.
It was childish. It was so upsetting to watch that and be like, and knowing
that everybody else in the world's watching it.
But also one of these two guys is going to be the leader of this country.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people cannot they cannot deal with criticism of
their political candidate.
Their political candidate.
Yep,
they
absolutely.
cannot deal with any of it. You're either entirely for them or you're against them. Because I have I work in utility construction. Who do you think all the people I work with vote for?
I work in chicken plants.
There you go. So
yeah.
I can't have a conversation with these people.
Yeah, no, absolutely not.
I can't say, well, I like that Donald Trump did this, but I really don't agree with this. And they'll be like, well, then you're a little and you obviously suck liberal dick and, this, that, and the other. And that's the exact same thing I get on the other side, too.
Yeah, absolutely. You're a racist, bigot, homophobe.
You're a racist, bigot, homophobe. And wow, that has weight.
Yeah, wow, really?
Yeah, that all it takes is for somebody with a little bit of, what's the word, clout.
No.
To say that you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you're a bigot. And then that's it.
Yeah.
That's it for you. You're done. You lost your job.
Where it's like, no, my thought process is a lot more convoluted and nuanced than just this top layer here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's disappointing that it's gotten to the point where you're in one of two you're in one of two tribes is essentially what it comes down to. And like I can be very critical of like some of the stuff that Trump has done, especially when taking in consideration the Second Amendment stuff. Yeah, it's like where everybody
said take the guns first, ask questions later.
Take the guns first, ask questions later. And under his administration, they got rid of bump stocks. Yeah. And it's like
the fact that he didn't lose all his support when that happened.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing.
It just to me shows that all they care about is red or blue.
Yep. It's like, oh nope, the guy that has the tie on that I like is going to be the person that's going to tell me what I can and can't do.
He can take my guns away as long as he's red.
Yep. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. Where it's like, no, I don't want anybody taking my guns. I don't want anybody taking the accessories to my guns. Yeah. It's like it's already been infringed enough on as it is.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that's the thing too, is that a lot of people, it's like I have set ideals on how I feel about the Second Amendment and gun control and all that stuff. But at the same time, it's like if somebody has an opposing opinion to me, that's like I feel like we should have more gun control. It's like I'll try to hear them out.
Yeah.
I'll be like, well, why do you think that? Why do you think that? Instead of automatically start being like, oh well, you just want the government to fuck us all and all this stuff, and like the same deal that pretty much everybody that's like 100% Trump all the time. It's disappointing because especially growing up, so many people that we knew were Republican, and I felt like they kind of felt the same way that we did with like smaller government, less taxes, more rights for as far as the individual is concerned, pro Second Amendment, but that's not that party anymore. Mm-mm. I don't know what that party is anymore.
I couldn't tell you what the Republican Party stands for anymore.
I don't know.
A lot of it is so contrarian to itself. No. They, like you said, they were originally very like not anti-government, but they didn't want the government to be have as much control over the individual as it does. No. And now it's like, okay, well, I'm fine with the government being totally in control as long as they enact the policies that I like.
Exactly.
It's like, okay, well then, what are you voting for anymore? You don't obviously. Your policies, your ideologies changed with the party. That's not supposed to happen. If the party changes, you don't change with it.
No.
You're supposed to be who you are.
Exactly.
And stay with that. And I feel like maybe peer pressure has a lot to do with that.
Well, and the thing is, too, is like if somebody presents me with a convincing argument that something is not the way that I think that it is, then of course my opinions can change.
Yeah.
But at the same time, going to go along with this outlandish idea that if I don't support the war in Iraq, then I don't support the troops, because those two things aren't
They're not
mutually exclusive. At all.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I don't support us being in the Middle East anymore, because it's, why are we over there dealing with all these people? We have enough problems here at home that need to be addressed.
Exactly.
You know.
Yeah, it's like I am staunchly in support of the troops. Ipso facto, I don't want them over there.
Exactly. And in fact, is the fact that I don't want them over there makes me feel like I'm in more support of them than somebody that's just blanket statement. The thing that the Republicans have done is like, oh, if you're not in support of the war, then you're not in support of the troops.
Well, how can that be?
Yeah, how can that be? It's like, no, I don't want them over there dying in a war that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
It's like, how many more American lives are we going to throw in the meat grinder?
Yeah.
Just so we can say that we gave them democracy.
And when that's not what you did, you went over there and you protected corporate assets.
Exactly.
Let's be honest about it. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. And I've never been a Democrat, but at the same time, some of like the older stuff that they did, where it was like they were against war, they were against some of the other stuff like that. But that's not the case anymore. Whereas they are for war. Like, they kept dropping bombs. They didn't get us out of the Middle East. Yeah. It's like, it's all just the same thing.
It's just packaged differently.
It's just packaged differently. It's like, who do you want trampling your rights? Do you want somebody with a blue tie or red tie?
Yep. And, part of me felt like a lot of that was the older generation. The baby boomers. But I see a lot of that with our generation, too. And a lot of that coming from Gen Z.
No.
Because it's almost like, depending on which way your political ideologies lean, that's your social standing.
No,
when that's not how it's supposed to be.
That's not supposed to be the case.
But there's a difference between the way things are supposed to be and the way things are, and you just kind of have to. You got to put up with it.
No. Well, and the fact that nobody wants to discuss anything anymore. Everybody's always.
Well, you can't have a discussion anymore. Everything is so charged, and everything is so.
It's black and white.
Yeah.
There's no gray area anymore for anything.
There's no more nuance. You're either completely for something or you're completely against it. And you see that anytime there's a debate, or and it comes from both sides.
Oh, absolutely.
It's, to me, the Young Turks are just as bad as Ben Shapiro. I'm just going to come right out and say it.
It's the same thing that you get from like Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, both of them, all of them are just pandering to.
Yeah, they're pandering to their side.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, is the pandering.
No, absolutely. Instead of, and that's the thing too, is like, if anybody, and of course, like on the Republican side, it's if anybody on that side looks at them and goes, hey, I don't feel the same way that everybody else feels about this, and then automatically they get labeled as a socialist, communist, Democrat. Yeah. That, it's just, and it's constant. It's like, if you don't toe the company line or the party line, either side, the left is worse, then you're going to be shut out of luck.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing to me. It's like, how I don't understand how people can look at a party and be like, they represent all of the things that I think.
Yeah, they can't.
It's like they obviously cannot.
You can't be staunchly opposed to this side and be 100%, in agreement with this side, because so many of, it's what they call the horseshoe effect. You go so far left, you eventually become right. No. And same on the other side. So, a lot of the extreme ideologies on this side are really close to being extreme ideologies on this side. So there can't be one side that you completely identify with.
No.
You can identify very much with that side, but there's somewhere in there's a little nugget of, I don't agree with that.
No.
And don't you dare voice that opinion.
No.
Because then all of a sudden you might as well be all the way over the other side of the room, pal.
No.
And I feel like when they do that, when someone on the right calls somebody a socialist, communist, all the whatever their favorite buzzwords are.
Isms.
All those isms. That person then says, well, I don't feel, I'm not accepted here. These people don't want me. Maybe I am.
Yeah, you push them.
Maybe I am way over here.
You push them away.
And the same thing happens over there. There's that whole Turning Point USA thing. That was a big whole think about, well, maybe not to that extreme. A lot of that was, they were just getting people to question why they believed in the things they did.
No.
But that was creating discussion, which is good. You just don't see a lot of that anymore.
No.
But when you just completely tell someone that you're this, you're that, you're this, they eventually are going to start believing that.
No.
And they eventually are going to become that.
No.
And then, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at that point.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, if you continue to tell somebody that they're one way, eventually they get tired of fighting it. They're like, okay, well, I am the person that you say that I am.
Yeah.
And then they lean into it.
Mm-hmm. And it's a slow burn.
No.
But it does eventually go that direction.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's the same deal with like the Libertarian Party, where it's like there's a lot that they stand for that I'm very much in agreement with, but at the same time, there's other things that the party wants to do that I am not so much in agreement with.
Yeah.
And I will say this about the Libertarian Party, is that they are more open to calling each other out.
Mm-hmm.
Just from like the circles that I kind of involve myself in, is like there's a lot more arguing inward than you see like with, and this might be incorrect because I don't run in the other circles with Republicans and Democrats, but just from what I've seen is that there's a lot more arguments that take place among libertarians about what libertarianism is, as opposed to where like Republicans, it's like what comes from on up high is everybody just, that's what we're doing now. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then like the Democrats, it's like whatever comes from up here, that's what we're doing now.
Yeah, nobody question it.
Yeah, and it might just be because it's such a small, it's such a small party still that they're just trying to
figure out,
trying to get it figured out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there's like you can be a major voice in the Libertarian Party and still have a very small like footprint as far as like social media or like how much you get out to people who are listening to what it is that you have to say.
Right.
Which that's one of the things too with the whole exodus from like Twitter and Facebook going to like Parler and stuff.
Yeah.
It's like
you're just seeking out an echo chamber.
Yeah, I'm really hoping that more people from other walks start to come to Parler and voice their opinions. Mm-hmm. I set up an account just to kind of see what was going on, because they claim to be for free speech. I mean, and if that's the one, First Amendment, Second Amendment, those are the two most important ones to me.
Yeah.
So it's like if we're really for First and Second Amendment, it's like then everybody, unless it's like, hey, we're going to meet up at such time to go commit some type of violence or something. That's a different story.
That's a different problem. That's domestic terrorism, and I'm not part of that.
Exactly. But like if you want to get on there and talk about like lizard people or the fact that the earth is flat or just whatever, conspiracy theories, like that's your prerogative. You should be allowed to do that. Yeah. And if that platform wants to be totally like open for First Amendment rights and you can say what you want to here, then I'm hoping that more people come in and voice their opinions instead of just like with a lot of the other tech companies that lean so far left,
right, that
it's really, I don't think they're trying to hide it anymore.
No, they're not. They're really not. I mean, Sarah, I'm currently in Facebook jail at the moment.
No.
Well deserved, might I add.
Well deserved.
But there have been instances where I posted something or commented something that I will defend that I didn't break any rules. It just wasn't in line with it was wrong think.
No.
And it got me put in Facebook jail. And the only reason I still have Facebook is because I've got a lot of pictures and videos there. It's just like a storage for me. And, I would delete it, but I got a lot of stuff there. And
and that's the thing, too, is that it's not just people who are on the right that are saying stuff that are upsetting these large social media companies. It's also people that are centrist, or people that are libertarians, or people, even some people on the left, that will say something that isn't in line with how those companies feel should be accepted or should be put out to the public. And it's like, and then all of a sudden they're put in Facebook jail, or their account gets banned or something like that. You know, that's why I'm really hoping that, like I said, I hope that Parler doesn't turn into an echo chamber for conservatives. I want to see more people involved there. Well,
if it does, then, you know, that all that does is prove the hypocrisy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the whole reason you have all these conservatives that are going to Parler is because, I can't say how I really feel here on Facebook.
No. And
then they're all going to go to Parler, and then somebody who doesn't completely agree with their line of thinking is going to just be a little bit, just the smallest bit defiant, and then they're going to get completely shit on.
Exactly.
And then guess what? All you have is Facebook, but red instead of blue.
Exactly.
And there you go. It's the same shit we have in the election.
And now you've driven them further apart.
Exactly.
Instead of having a place where everybody can come and talk, what you've done is you've taken the two sides and you've divided them even further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So instead of having, if, you know, people on the right are over here talking about whatever it is that they're talking about, nobody else is going to be able to come in and try to course correct that conversation.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the same thing with Facebook and Twitter. Like, nobody tries to course correct those conversations. So you get a lot of misinformation that gets put out on both sides, really.
Yeah.
So it's just disappointing that it's kind of...
People seek out confirmation bias, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's human nature.
I catch myself doing it all the time.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like most of the political pages I follow are libertarian pages.
Yeah, because that's what you want to see.
That's what I want to see.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, it's just the way that they have it set up. It's like, no, this is what you want to see, and they just feed more and more of it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm glad that the election's over. I know that it's going to get ugly once it's finalized. But I swear to God, if the conservatives go out and they riot, and they go and they burn shit down, and they go out and they act like fools, you just did everything that you spent the last 6 months, criticizing the left for.
Absolutely.
And the thing that you gotta, saying that, it's not everybody that's going out and rioting.
No.
It's just, of course you're going to see it.
Yeah.
They're not going to not show you the people that are rioting.
Human nature is to look for the bad things.
Exactly. And when you see that, and that's all you're seeing, if they're not going to have news coverage of some liberal who's sitting on his couch playing Minecraft.
No.
You don't want to see that. I don't care about this guy.
Yeah.
I want to see the person that's knocking over Target.
Yeah, somebody that's sitting out there with a bike lock hitting people in the head.
Exactly. But it's hard to see, 50,000 people rioting and then not think that's how they all are. Because there's so many of them that are doing that.
No.
Because I think it's human nature to when you see a lot of something.
Yeah, you automatically
make that connection. You say, okay, that's how that is.
Well.
And, there might be some kind of lizard brain survival aspect of that too. Like, okay, I've touched this frog before, and when I did, I got violently high and I shit myself.
Yeah.
All frogs don't touch.
Yeah,
you know
absolutely.
What I mean? So I think that's probably where a lot of that comes from. I don't have a degree in biology, so I couldn't tell you, or human nature. Mm-hmm. That's just my own, that's my own stupid opinion. And you have to deal with it.
And that's the thing too, is there's so many people on both sides that they just lump everybody into a category. And there's so many people on the right that go out and they do this thing where it's like everybody that's at the protest are looters and they're criminals and all this stuff, and it's like, no, some people are out there peacefully protesting and they want positive change for something that they feel very strongly about. It's like, do you have bad actors? Yes, you do have bad actors, but at the same time, it's like, until you can meet somebody face to face and really get an idea of what it is that they're trying to do, it's like you can't pick that out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, you see it too, like Steven Crowder. He'll go out to these, to all these protests, and he probably spends 9-10 hours there. And he releases a 5-minute video. Now, do you think he only got 5 minutes of footage while he was there? No. He probably got hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of footage of people who were probably more centrist than they realized.
No.
But of course, he probably found all the wackos and the lunatics and
the blue hair,
and the armpit hair, and the septum piercing people, and not that any of those things are wrong, but altogether, you kind of have an idea what you're in for. I have an idea of who
this person probably is. Once again, I've lumped them into a category.
Exactly. But those are the people he's going to put on his Facebook video.
Yeah, absolutely, because they're going to get more hits. So you're not going to get hits by simply talking to somebody that would seem reasonable to other people that are watching the video.
Exactly. Because people want to get riled up, and they want to see, like, oh, look at this person right here. They're I saw 5 people here at this protest of 70,000 people, and those 5 people were lunatics. All 70,000 of those people must be lunatics.
Exactly.
And if there's 70,000 lunatics, then there's probably millions of lunatics.
Exactly. Everybody's a lunatic except me.
Except me. I'm the only normal person. I'm the only level-headed person. But, well, I think that's time for us.
Yeah, I think time's about up. So, just quickly before we go here, give you our email account if you want to email us and tell us whether or not you enjoyed the podcast or whether or not you absolutely fucking hated it.
Or if you have questions.
Or comments.
Please feel free to send hate mail.
Yeah, please feel free to send hate mail. We'll read it on the next podcast.
We will. We'll read your hate mail on the next podcast.
We'll read it on the next podcast, and hopefully we'll get some good ones coming here. Anyway, so this is going to be our first upload, so I'm sure that we'll be able to maybe get the email address into the description. But in case anybody's wondering, the email address is thiccboipodcast@gmail.com. That's THICCBOIPODCAST@gmail.com. Additionally, right now we don't have any social media accounts. We are in the process of setting up a Discord. I think that's probably going to be the best place for maybe in the future if we somehow gain a community or a following or something like that we can
by some stroke of luck
that we can maybe
people enjoy listening to us sit here and talk about wieners and butts and politics.
There you go. That maybe we can I think that'll probably be the best place to get in contact with them, and then hopefully if it takes off, maybe we can just start doing some live streams maybe on YouTube or Twitch or something like that.
We'll get a better location for that too, because right now it looks like me and Wesley are sitting in like a serial killer anti-scream room. I have blankets and pillows and stuff nailed into the wall because this is where my band records. But yeah, we'll start streaming. We'll get like a nice little setup going. But yeah, I think that pretty much covers it as far as ways to contact us or anything like that.
Yep, I believe so.
Any closing statements?
I just want to say anybody that's tuned in for the first podcast, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you for listening.
My PC just crashed again, so that's concerning.
I saw it in the reflection of your glasses.
So that's concerning. But yeah, if you want to reach out and contact us, please do it through the Gmail account that was provided. We'll try to put that in the description in the podcast. I really hope that you've enjoyed spending this time with us, and hopefully you'll join us for the next one.
Yeah. Thank you and goodbye.